The psychology of mercy. Why sparing others actually saves yourself. Have you ever let someone off the hook when you had every right to hold them accountable? Maybe you forgave a mistake at work, gave someone a second chance, or chose mercy when you could have chosen revenge. In that moment, did you think you were being weak? Because here's what science and ancient wisdom both tell us. That moment of mercy might be the smartest strategic decision you ever make. Today, we're diving into The Lion and the Mouse. But forget everything you think you know about this children's tale. This isn't about being nice. This is about survival, power dynamics, and why the most successful people in history understood something that most of us miss completely. In minutes, you'll discover why mercy isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strategic advantage. And by the end, you'll see your own relationships, your career, and your daily decisions in a completely different light. The mercy paradox. When power meets restraint. Let's start with a question that makes most people uncomfortable. When you have absolute power over someone, what stops you from using it? The lion in our story faces this exact moment. He's caught the mouse who dared to disturb his sleep. He's hungry enough to eat. He has every justification to destroy this tiny creature. And yet, he doesn't. Why? Because he's just eaten. And the mouse makes an interesting argument. The mouse says something brilliant. I might be able to help you someday. Now, the lion laughs at this. Of course he does. The idea seems absurd. How could something so powerless ever help something so powerful? But here's where most people misunderstand this moment. The lion doesn't spare the mouse because he believes the promise. He spares the mouse because, in that moment, killing serves no purpose. He's not hungry. The mouse poses no threat. Mercy costs him nothing. This is the first critical insight. Strategic mercy happens when the cost of compassion is lower than the cost of cruelty. The lion makes a calculation, probably unconsciously, that this tiny creature isn't worth the energy it would take to kill and eat it. But there's something deeper happening here that modern psychology has only recently begun to understand. When we show mercy, when we choose restraint over our full power, we're actually practicing something called emotional regulation. We're proving to ourselves that we control our impulses rather than our impulses controlling us. The lion who can choose not to kill is more powerful than the lion who kills reflexively. True power isn't about using force, it's about having force and choosing when to use it. Every great leader throughout history has understood this principle. They knew that mercy, deployed strategically, creates something that fear never can: genuine loyalty, the vulnerability of strength, when your greatest asset becomes your weakness. Fast forward in our story. The mighty lion, ruler of everything he surveys, gets caught in a hunter's trap. And here's the devastating irony. His strength becomes completely useless. He roars, he struggles, he uses every ounce of his legendary power, and none of it matters. The ropes hold, the trap works, the king is helpless. This moment reveals something profound about power that most people never consider. Specialization creates vulnerability. Think about this in modern terms. The executive who built their entire identity on being the smartest person in the room suddenly faces a crisis that requires emotional intelligence, not intellect. The athlete whose body was their fortune faces an injury. The wealthy person whose money solved every problem encounters something money can't fix. The lion's muscles, his roar, his fearsome reputation, all meaningless against a problem that requires a different solution entirely. This is the trap that success creates. We become so good at one thing, so identified with one source of power, that we become brittle. We lose flexibility. We can't adapt when the game changes. And here's what makes this even more interesting. The lion's isolation in this moment of crisis reveals the cost of ruling through fear rather than relationship. Where are all the other animals? Where are his subjects? They hear his roar. They know he's in trouble, but nobody comes. Why? Because the lion never built genuine relationships. He had subjects, not friends. He had fear-based compliance, not loyalty-based alliance. When the crisis came, when he actually needed help, he discovered that power without relationship is just expensive isolation. The mighty lion, who could command anything through force, couldn't command the one thing he actually needed: someone who cared enough to risk helping him. The mouse's decision. Why small actions create massive impact. Now we come to the moment that changes everything. The mouse hears the lion's roar and makes a choice. He could ignore it. He could tell himself that the lion's problems aren't his concern. He could remember that this is the same creature who almost ate him. But he doesn't. He runs toward danger to help someone who once showed him mercy. And this is where the story reveals its most powerful lesson about human nature and reciprocity. The mouse doesn't help because he's calculating advantage. He's not thinking, well, if I save the lion, then I'll have a powerful ally. He helps because he remembers. He remembers the moment when the lion chose restraint. That memory has weight. It has power. It drives action. This is something that researchers in behavioral economics and psychology have confirmed repeatedly. We don't forget moments when someone with power over us chooses not to use it. Those moments imprint on us. They create what psychologists call a reciprocity norm, a deep sense of obligation that transcends rational calculation. But here's what makes the mouse's action even more remarkable. He acts alone, immediately, with no guarantee of success or reward. He doesn't form a committee. He doesn't wait for someone more qualified. He sees a problem he can solve, and he solves it. His tiny teeth, useless in almost every other context, are exactly what's needed in this specific situation. He gnaws through the ropes strand by strand, bite by bite, turning his supposed weakness into strength. This is the power of persistent small actions. One bite means nothing. 1,000 bites change everything. The mouse teaches us that you don't need overwhelming force to solve overwhelming problems. You need the right tool, consistently applied, with patience and determination. How many of us give up on big challenges because we can't solve them all at once? The mouse doesn't have that luxury. He just starts biting, and he doesn't stop until the job is done. The transformation. Why being saved changes everything. When the lion is freed, something extraordinary happens. He doesn't just thank the mouse. He doesn't just acknowledge the debt. He completely transforms his understanding of value and worth. He tells the mouse, "You are now the prince of this forest." Think about what this means. The lion is fundamentally reordering his entire worldview. He's admitting that his previous assumptions about power, significance, and worth were wrong. The creature he mocked, the being he found insignificant, just accomplished what all the lion's strength could not. This is the final lesson, and it's the one that ties everything together. Mercy creates unexpected alliances. Vulnerability reveals true friends. Small acts compound into massive impacts. And being willing to admit you were wrong, to let experience transform your beliefs, is the mark of actual wisdom rather than mere intelligence. The lion and mouse become friends, genuine friends, because they've seen each other at their worst and their best. The lion saw the mouse's courage. The mouse saw the lion's capacity for restraint and growth. That's not a transactional relationship. That's a transformation. So here's what you need to remember. Every time you choose mercy, when you could choose cruelty, you're not being weak. You're making an investment in a future you can't predict. Every time you help someone, despite the size difference in your positions, you're building the kind of relationship that survives crisis. And every time you let yourself be transformed by experience rather than clinging to comfortable assumptions, you become more like the lion at the end of the story, wiser, stronger, and genuinely powerful rather than just appearing so. The lion and the mouse teaches us that true power isn't about dominating others. It's about knowing when to show restraint, when to accept help, and when to completely transform your understanding of who matters and why. That's not just a children's story, That's a blueprint for living wisely in a complex world.